Welcome back to another episode of Whiskey Wednesdays. Today I'm joined by singer-songwriter Lydia Luce, and we're really excited to talk about her latest single, Dark River, and her upcoming album. So if you want to just start off by telling people where you come from, how did you get started in music?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I got started playing classical music because my mom is a classical conductor and organist. And so when I was like 6, she decided that I would play violin, and my brother, who was a year younger than me, would play cello. And then we just kind of grew up in this like family orchestral lifestyle and would play like little wedding gigs and stuff. And then as we got older, we kind of became more professional with it and decided we wanted to pursue music, or I at least did. My brother ended up doing something else. But so yeah, I started off like very much like in the classical realm and playing in different orchestras. I went to a classical conservatory for my first college, and then somewhere along the lines was like, this isn't my thing. I think this is my mom's thing, and just started songwriting. I went to Berkeley College of Music for undergrad, and then UCLA for grad school, and have just like, I don't know, had kind of like an interesting like journey where I tried a lot of different things in music, but finally found this place where I'm at now with songwriting and still playing some violin and viola. But yeah, just, I had to check off all the boxes. I wanted to try everything first.
Yeah, it's fun to dabble in a few different things and have that experience. And
Yes.
what art that you produce now.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's like, I worked at the Smithsonian for a little bit, like doing world music studies. And I thought I wanted to do like ethnomusicology, and like all of the things that I have done, I'm seeing like how now they are playing a role in like the type of music I write, or like whatever where I ended up. So it's cool to like look back and be like, oh, I didn't know that would end up this way, but here we are. And I love it.
When did you realize that the violin was your mom's thing, and you're like, oh wait, I think I was like forced into this kind of, it's not what I wanted to do?
I don't know. Like, it honestly probably only like a few years ago when I think like I'm so grateful for, like, I wouldn't have practiced the hours that like she made me practice. And so in a way there's such a silver lining there, because I am grateful for the like ability to play violin and viola, which is really hard. They're really hard instruments, and they take a lot of time to like learn. But probably like I went to the Smithsonian, and then I went back to school and got my master's in the viola. So I think there was a piece of me that was still like, okay, so I think I'll pursue like viola and do that, and maybe like apply for orchestra positions. And then I got into songwriting more halfway through my graduate degree and getting my master's in the viola, and was like, what am I doing? I don't want to be here, I don't think. And then when I moved to Nashville, even still, my mom was like, so are you going to audition for the Nashville Symphony Orchestra? And I was like, no, I have decided that is not my thing, and this is my thing. And yeah, and it's great.
And your sound is very like, seems very influential from Nashville now. Has that come from living there, or do you have like music that you listened to that was similar before?
Yeah, I always listened to, like, I didn't just listen to classical music. I had like a very probably vast catalog of music that I enjoyed, and so I'm sure there's elements of Nashville. I lived here for 4 years, but then before that, like, I grew up on like Crosby, Stills, and Nash. So my dad was really, it was like my mom with the Mozart in the car and the Beethoven, and then my dad's car was like the fun music, and we'd listen to Peter, Paul, and Mary, and like Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and Fleetwood Mac. So I absorbed a lot of those genres like 60s, 70s rock, folk, and that I think I can really hear too in my sound, that's coming out. So, but yeah, we always wanted to ride in Dad's car because it was the fun one.
My part.
Yeah, not that Mozart's not like cool and stuff, but you know, time and a place.
And I mean, just your sound in general still sounds very controlled, and I think that's probably an like remainder, like element from learning all of this classical music your whole life. What do you think that having that classical training has helped, like throughout, like doing this other type of music or through your songwriting?
I think that it teaches you, or at least classical music, there's such a what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you have to really have a drive to do it, and like a discipline. You have to be very disciplined in it. And so I think I'm still doing that with my music now in some way. But I think that like playing violin and viola, they're such melodic instruments. The sound is very similar to the voice, and I think my writing kind of stems from that. Like the melodies that I find in my songwriting, I think are coming from those years of playing just all the different, I don't know, free melodies that I've played on the violin and viola. And
you have all these little like tricks from the trade from earlier that you kind of like, oh, maybe I can use this little element.
Sure. Yes.
That.
Right. Yeah. And I still like, I try to put string music in every song. Like if it feels like it should be there. And even the songs that are like rockier, like we'll still add some cello that's more rhythmic or whatever. But I just love string instruments. I love violin, viola, cello. So I love trying to sneak those into almost every song.
Yeah, and your debut album Azalea is, I think, a little bit more like lighter and airier than the song you just put out, Dark River, but they both have that like added element of like this orchestral like symphony sound like kind of floating around in it, and it adds like a different like feeling to both types of sound, which is really cool.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I love about those instruments is they're so diverse. You find like string instruments in so many genres. It's not just like the pretty songwriting, folky kind of thing. You find string instruments in EDM music and like jazz, and just it's such a versatile instrument that it can do so many things, and so that's why we keep trying to throw it in everything. Yeah, you're right.
And you even did like a full instrumental version of Azalea too, which is really cool.
Yeah, I did. I was like, I have a studio space in my house in Nashville, and so I just wanted to try. I just taught myself Pro Tools and was like, let's just get into this a little more, and stripped all the vocals off and just played the viola parts, which was fun. But also when you're recording by yourself, it becomes very like, it's very mentally draining, or like there were so many things where I was like, you need to let that go. It's fine. Because I'd be like, I could do it better. And then, you know what I mean? When it's just you and a thing, it's really hard to stop. You have to almost cut yourself off.
I feel like in any kind of creative process, it's really good to have at least one other person to bounce stuff off of.
Exactly.
Go into your head. And you're like, well, this isn't the way that I envisioned it, so it's bad.
Yeah, or even deadlines for me too are so helpful to just be like, okay, this is going to be done on this day, and it's going to be what it is. It's going to be great. Yeah.
So you put out Dark River back in September, and that's the first single off of the same title album named Dark River that's coming out in February.
Yeah.
And I read that that's like a little bit about the tornado that happened in Nashville back in March.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So the song that I'm releasing on Thursday actually is about that for sure. But it's interesting because I had written that song before the tornado happened, and then I was playing I had helped to put together with members of my community a tornado relief show, benefit show, and I was rehearsing that. I wanted to play that song, and I was rehearsing it, and during that time, like, I was so anxious and was having so many panic attacks because the tornado had happened on a Tuesday, and then on Monday or Tuesday, and then I think we had that show on Thursday or Friday. So I was still very much like just overwhelmed with emotions and afraid, and it was such a crazy thing to experience. And so while I was rehearsing that song, there's so many references in that song to what I was identifying in myself as anxiety. And then when I like understood that, I told the co-writer, and he was like, yes, absolutely, because we've all experienced in Nashville, we've all experienced this level of, it was so devastating and so scary. Like, I had never been in a tornado, and I mean, I grew up in Florida, so there are obviously hurricanes, but the shock factor of it, of just, we're having a great night and then there's a tornado. I had come back from this amazing show, and then that happened that night. So that song definitely took on a whole new meaning. And I think that's such a beautiful thing about songwriting, is you live with these songs. This has happened to me with older songs that I've written too, where they take on new meaning as I change as a person too. It's whatever you're kind of, you're interpreting it as. And so that definitely became that for me. I was like, when am I gonna stop feeling anxiety? And thank God for therapy and friends and insurance and house insurance.
Oh, did anything get damaged on?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I was home, and my roommate and I were upstairs, and the sirens went off. We have these tornado sirens, and then I got a notification on my phone, and the sirens go off often, so you don't really think about it when it happens so often. You're like, oh, it's just another tornado siren. And so I had checked, there's this Twitter account called Nashville Severe Weather, and my friend had just told me about it. I'd never been on it. And I was like, let me just check this guy. And there was a video I was watching that said, if you're upstairs and you're watching this and you're thinking about going downstairs, stop thinking about it, go downstairs right now. And I ran out the door, I knocked on my roommate's door, and we both ran down the stairs. And while we were running down the stairs, the tornado was passing over, and there were pilings of wood, like pieces of other people's roofs flying, like that flew through the wall in my room and directly across my bed. So, and we're just like bouncing around in my room, and the tornado happened, and then it's so loud, and you come out and you're like, I guess it's over, I guess everything's fine. And then you see the damage, and it's really shocking. It's like, you just don't expect that. Like, I went upstairs and saw the damage and was like, what? And the how quick everything happened too. So it was really scary. But yeah, this community in Nashville like pulled through, and everybody was out the next day just cleaning up and helping. And so 2020.
Yeah, remind me when exactly in March that happened. Was it like the first week?
Yeah, that was March 3rd.
Okay, because I was trying to figure out how close it was to like when everything shut down. But...
Yeah, and so then we were out of the house for a month, and we were bouncing around, and then COVID kind of became like a very serious thing that maybe second or third week. And so we were like, when you really want to be home and you're being told to be home, but you literally can't go home. It was a wild time. But some of my neighbors still aren't home. So I feel lucky in comparison to a lot of people, had it so much worse, but that can always be said for things. So yeah, weird year, but
we're summed up pretty well.
yeah. Wow. Yeah.
But I mean, I'm glad that you're home now and everything was good. I can't even imagine the people who are still like not in their homes and having to quarantine and deal with everything like that. That's ridiculous.
I know.
But so back to the song, I'm looking at you put out the music video for Dark River on the same day, I think, for the song, and I just watched that, and it's cool. It's like this cartoon like animation of maybe like an animated version of you kind of just like flying around like kaleidoscopic type world, not really like conquering these monsters, but like kind of like overcoming them and like using them to your advantage seemingly. Does that have any tie to like how you dealt with like the tornadoes?
I think that like Dark River is about like kind of like defending yourself in a way against things that might suck up your energy and setting boundaries for yourself. And I think like this whole record is very vulnerable. And so, yeah, the video, I feel like kind of sums that up in a way too, because we're all like put together pieces of pain and joy and experiences, and we all have like such vast scales of life experiences, and all of that makes us ourselves and our own person. And so then when we turn that into art, it's like it's a beautiful thing too. You're pulling from the pain, from the shitty parts, from the amazing parts, and you're just like, this is who I am, and this is my lot in life. And so what else can you do? And that video, at the end, all the monsters turn into flowers, and that's what I love that too. So my partner, who's usually a touring drummer, musician, isn't, obviously, and so he's taught himself animation and made that video.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and we were like talking through, I got to help him come up with the storyline and made a little like storyboard for it, and yeah, like that idea of like, well, you can turn your monsters into, they don't have all of the things that happen to you in your life don't have to just live in this like evil category. Like they are also lessons learned, they're like things that made you stronger, whatever, it not all the time, and that's not always the interpretation, and it's different for everybody. But that's, I think, what this record meant for me of the things that I've experienced. I'm turning 31 this week, like towards my late 20s, and then into now, of just like all the lessons I've learned about myself, and yeah, turning them into flowers.
Well, that's
Yay!
a metaphor, because I think a lot of people right now are going through a lot of intense like anxiety and like changes and things that are very overwhelming, and to kind of have a little bit of hope that maybe some of this stuff, not that it's a good thing that it's happening, but it might help turn you into a different person or realize some things about yourself. And
and there's always hope, right? There's not like, we can at least always try to maintain a little bit of hope, like even when it's so, and that's hard, I know, for depending on like what you're going through, but I feel like that's the one thing that I try to at least try to hold on to. In this year, wow, yeah. You don't know.
So
it's been wild.
It's been wild. What has it been like, starting to release this new music during all of this? And like, have you done anything differently? Has it felt differently?
Yeah, it's weird thinking like into the future, because the future is so, always, but particularly now, feels like out of control, and that unpredictable. But yeah, like, usually you'd have like a release show and you'd go on tour, and now we're just like waiting to see. But I still feel really happy to be sharing songs and music, and I wanted to do it now too, and not wait, because also that, like, we don't know what's going to happen. And also there's space to write more music, and so, put this out and keep making music. But it's been different for sure. Like, I started working with a new manager who I haven't met him in person, which is so funny. I know.
Yeah.
We've only done this, but I also feel very connected to him still. So yeah, it's definitely different, but it's working. So whatever. Yeah.
So this is going to come out November 11th. When's the next time you're putting out a new single? What have you released so far at this point?
So Dark River came out last month, and then October 22nd, so this on Thursday, will be the song that is about anxiety, Occasionally. It's called Occasionally. And then at the end of this year, I'm releasing one more song, and that's going to be in, I think it's December 4th. And that is a song called Maybe in Time, and it's about whether or not God exists. And then the next year, at the beginning of the year, I'll release a few more singles and the full album in February. So, yeah.
Nice. A lot of big, heavy questions, and themes.
Yeah.
That, definitely goes along with at least I've just heard Dark River, because we're recording this a little bit before the 22nd. It sounds like a lot darker than your past album, and a little more gritty, but still that like orchestral element, like backed with it. So
yeah, for sure. It's definitely darker. I'm not even darker. I think I'm just kind of like more open to sharing things of myself that I have been in the past, like, and even with the song about it, like, if there is or isn't a God. Like, my family is really I grew up in a really strong Christian family, and so I haven't even been able to have those conversations with my family until recently, until like the last year. So it's me just, sinking into me a little bit more and being more open and vulnerable. And so, yeah, it does feel heavier in a sense, like songs about codependency and God and whatever, but in a really good way. Like, it makes me I feel very open to sharing it now. And I don't think I have felt that way in the past. So, yeah.
I think music lovers will appreciate that level of vulnerability in a musician, and that's how, like, it makes it easier for us to, like, relate to people's music. Just by sharing that level of, like, oh, well, that person's going through this or has these thoughts, and, like, not many people talk about it, but I also feel that way, so it's kind of cool to, like, hear that come out.
Yeah, even the Dark River song that had elements of codependency, and I had shared about that a little bit, and so many people have come up to me and talked to me about codependency. And just last year, I only started coming to terms with those ideas in myself. So it's really cool to now be in this position where I'm able to talk about it with other people that are going through that too, or discovering that in themselves. And yeah, you're right. When you're vulnerable, it's like an invitation for somebody else to be vulnerable, which is so beautiful.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
I mean, music especially, but any kind of art, that's, how people get drawn to it, and that's the beautiful thing about it, creating something for people to see and hear.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's great. We covered some heavy stuff. I feel like we got somewhere.
I like to go a little deep in these chats,
Oh yeah,
people.
Me too. And you guided it very well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Lydia. I appreciate you chatting with me today, and I'm really excited to hear the rest of the music off of Dark River. And February seems so far away right now, but the realizing how fast like 7 or 8 months has passed,
I know.
I feel like it's gonna come up really quick.
I know. I feel that way too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much, and talk to you guys next time.